can't believe what a bunch of cowards these people are. Hi, it's Jack Mostar. Like you have no idea. I'm not going to go out like too much about how the fucking DEA and the FBI are a bunch of fucking sissy pant motherfucking weakling fucks.
Fuck you, Michael Cousy.
I have people for that. Click.
3, 2, 1, ignition.
Jack Austin, astronaut. Exposed to inappropriate levels of solar energy.
Sunlight makes him the world's smartest man.
I know everything!
I want that brain taken out.
Heat Vision, the motorcycle with the mind of Jack's unemployed roommate. Together they run for their lives, blocked at every turn by adventure.
Move out, don't mess around. Move out, you bring me down. Move out, I can get about, don't make a sound. Just move out.
Knowledge is power, for real.
Hi, it's Jack. I'm a star. Let me explain. I walked in on an ambush. I still don't know if it was an intentional ambush or if it was an accident. But there's video of me getting wailed on by a Gorgon Harpy Queen. Okay. Now, number one, certain people want to know, how did that happen? Amongst them, me. And then, unlike me, the other people who want to know probably were under the impression that these Gorgon things were pretty deadly, right? So, hi, it's Jack. I'm a star. So, because I haven't seen this video, but I was there, I can only imagine that the people who have anything to do with this situation are freaking out, right? Since there are these rules that are supposed to be followed, and obviously they weren't, right? Obviously they weren't. I'm not real upset or bitter about it, but some people are, right? Some people really are. I don't know who, but I know that they're keenly invested in the outcomes in the next few days. I'd like to list off all the players. I'd like to name them and make little stories about them. But I'm going to wait. Here's why. It's a military thing. It's an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing crime thing. Now, I don't have to know all the details to know that it's a big deal, right? And I also don't have to get laid, play video games, get famous, reconnect with my past loved ones, explain to current loved ones what I know is going on, start a business with my helpmate, explain to people why I had to behave the way I did. I don't have to do any of that shit yet. And here's why. Other people ran off and assumed that they would never, ever have to account for their actions with me. I don't know why they thought that. Probably some combination of drug use combined with their estimation of me as someone that just didn't really matter that much. Okay. Clearly I matter. Unless you're on YouTube, in which case, well, my comments get blocked and my channel gets blocked, and then all these other things happen, and then I can't promote things, and then wherever I go on YouTube, people can see me, and it's just this weird kind of situation that if I talked about openly, I think it would set off a panic, honestly. Mostly because obviously certain people are just acting on autopilot, like they're not thinking things through. I don't really know how that happens. Perhaps in the future I'll figure that out, and then I won't talk about that then. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I know just by paying attention to keep my mouth shut that I'm not going to talk about. And all this is going to happen whether I'm alive or not, whether I stay sober or not, whether I sell the house or not. It's already going to happen because I already lived through it. For me, it's been 3 years. I think some people are going to be sent back in time or put on a reverse time track level. I don't know at all because I'm not in charge of that kind of shit. I'm in charge of one particular thing. I'd like to see grapefruit. Now, I know who that is, and I don't really know why it's so hard to track her down, right? But let's just say when a team of 3 feds came to my house and asked questions, they didn't seem to be too concerned about me. They seemed to be more concerned about other stuff, right? It was as though I was a ghost in the house. It was as though I didn't really matter. Like when they have those automatic houses with the ghost butler or some shit, right? Had they asked me direct questions, I probably could have told them everything they needed to know. But they didn't. They just showed up with some sort of technology that allowed them to, well, just run off and do stupid shit. Now, I don't mind. It's been a long time since I've been curious about what's been going on, but at some point I realized that being put in this situation has enabled certain choice, fringe, edge case scenario outcomes to come true. For example, there's this guy who's caught. Apparently he was a real hard person to catch. And then this other person, they're caught too. And apparently they were similarly hard to catch. And now they're drinking and they're smoking. And I guess they're waiting to find out what's going to happen next. Now that I know this, hang on. Now that I know this, it makes more sense why I'm so patient after sitting here for as many years as I have. I mean, it's been a long fucking time. It's pretty boring. It's pretty lame. Nevertheless, it's worth it. It's worth it. In the future, I'll be able to talk a lot more openly about it all. But at this point, I've got dudes wiping my phone when they don't like what they hear me saying. Now, I don't know if that's automatic or if there's somebody who's being paid extra or, I don't know. But I do know that everything they do and everything they do as a result of what they learned from looking at my phone, it's all actionable. It's all actionable. Something really exciting is going to happen, right? I don't know what. Hi, it's Jack. I'm a star. Let me explain. I walked in on an ambush. I still don't know if it was an intentional ambush or if it was an accident. But there's video of me getting wailed on by a Gorgon harpy queen. Okay. Now, number one, certain people want to know, how did that happen? Amongst them, me. And then, unlike me, the other people who want to know probably were under the impression that these Gorgon things were pretty deadly, right? So, Hi, it's Jack. I'm a star. So because I haven't seen this video, but I was there, I can only imagine that the people who have anything to do with this situation are freaking out, right? Since there are these rules that are supposed to be followed, and obviously they weren't, right? Obviously they weren't. I'm not real upset or bitter about it, but some people are, right? Some people really are. I don't know who, but I know that they're keenly invested in the outcomes in the next few days. I'd like to list off all the players. I'd like to name them and make little stories about them. But I'm going to wait. Here's why. It's a military thing. It's an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing crime thing. Now, I don't have to know all the details to know that it's a big deal, right? And I also don't have to get laid, play video games, get famous, reconnect with my past loved ones, explain to current loved ones what I know has been going on, start a business with my helpmate, explain to people why I had to behave the way I did. I don't have to do any of that shit yet. And here's why. Other people ran off and assumed that they would never, ever have to account for their actions with me. I don't know why they thought that. Probably some combination of drug use combined with their estimation of me as someone that just didn't really matter that much. Okay. Clearly I matter. Unless you're on YouTube, in which case, well, my comments get blocked and my channel gets blocked, and then all these other things happen, and then I can't promote things, and then wherever I go on YouTube, people can see me, and it's just this weird kind of situation that if I talked about openly, I think it would set off a panic, honestly. Mostly because obviously certain people are just acting on autopilot, like they're not thinking things through. I don't really know how that happens. Perhaps in the future I'll figure that out, and then I won't talk about that then. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I know just by paying attention to keep my mouth shut that I'm not going to talk about. And all this is going to happen whether I'm alive or not, whether I stay sober or not, whether I sell the house or not. It's already going to happen because I already lived through it. For me, it's been 3 years. I think some people are going to be sent back in time or put on a reverse time track level. I don't know at all because I'm not in charge of that kind of shit. I'm in charge of one particular thing. I'd like to see grapefruit. Now, I know who that is, and I don't really know why it's so hard to track her down, right? But let's just say when a team of 3 feds came to my house and asked questions, they didn't seem to be too concerned about me. They seemed to be more concerned about other stuff, right? It was as though I was a ghost in the house. It was as though I didn't really matter. Like when they have those automatic houses with the ghost butler or some shit, right? Had they asked me direct questions, I probably could have told them everything they needed to know. But they didn't. They just showed up with some sort of technology that allowed them to, well, just run off and do stupid shit. Now, I don't mind. It's been a long time since I've been curious about what's been going on, but at some point I realized that being put in this situation has enabled certain choice, fringe, edge case scenario outcomes to come true. For example, there's this guy who's caught. Apparently he was a real hard person to catch. And then this other person, they're caught too. And apparently they were similarly hard to catch. And now they're drinking and they're smoking. And I guess they're waiting to find out what's going to happen next. Now that I know this, hang on. Now that I know this, it makes more sense why I'm so patient after sitting here for as many years as I have. I mean, it's been a long fucking time. It's pretty boring. It's pretty lame. Nevertheless, it's worth it. It's worth it. In the future, I'll be able to talk a lot more openly about it all. But at this point, I've got dudes wiping my phone when they don't like what they hear me saying. Now, I don't know if that's automatic or if there's somebody who's being paid extra or, I don't know. But I do know that everything they do and everything they do as a result of what they learn from looking at my phone, it's all actionable. It's all actionable. Something really exciting is going to happen, right? I don't know what. I do know that I don't want to get out and push. I do know that I'm not in a particular hurry to see it come to an end. And I do know that it didn't quite have to be this way. However, Sweetie's upset about something. I'm not sure what, but I'm willing to guess it's none of our business, since it involves some sort of high-level negotiation at the treaty level between the military and their bound chattel slave whore military assets. Don't know how many of them there are. Don't know this, don't know that. I do know that it's important that it remains confidential and private. So, about that new formula. Well, I don't know much about it. I don't care to know much about it. And it's not that big a deal to me. Which is why it's hilarious that I possess the divine license and I haven't even looked into turning it on any further than I already have. I didn't really want to be the owner of such a license. I guess that's why I got it. Now, since then, none of the people who know what I'm talking about have wanted to talk to me. They haven't wanted to stop by. They haven't wanted to tell me the truth. They haven't wanted to answer the phone. Instead, they've been running around, I assume in public, as well as on YouTube, talking mad shit about stuff that's not going to matter. It's not going to matter at all. The people who are going to be punished, let me tell you how it starts. They remove their essence from the body and they annihilate their soul. And this is done by separating the soul into component parts and letting it reconfigure itself however long that takes. Right? Now, I don't know how other kinds of beings have souls or have access to them, but I guess archangels have like 7 slots and humans have 3, and then I guess spiders and octopi, I guess they're related, and I guess they're from another dimension or something. I don't know. there's a lot to being an occult researcher that doesn't solely rely on keeping my mouth shut, but a lot of it does rely on keeping my mouth shut. That's why not writing a book yet. That's why dudes on a whim with the right authority can just reach into my phone and delete what I've been working on. And then someone else can look and see what got deleted. They can examine the motivations behind such a thing. Because realistically, why can't I just be bought off? Why can't I just be killed? Why can't I just be done with? Okay, well, here's why. There's dudes running around the planet with my ID. Okay? Eventually, people are going to notice. And then those people, they're going to be, I don't know, something. It rather depends on where they're at when I just decide to pop up and say, hello, I'm this person, right? I'm going to try to do this politely, and then I don't want to create civil unrest and shit, nor do I want to hire a lawyer or worry about it, since it's all being taken care of. You know, we're lucky that I'll be able to say anything at all, honestly, since there's so much shit going on of an extraordinarily delicate nature that if somebody in my position were to just start running their mouth off about stuff that mattered, well, it might upset the delicate balance of power. We don't want that. For example, there's these two people who I want to be brought back to themselves at some point. Mostly so I can laugh at them, right? But in the meantime, they're drinking and they're smoking and they're not engaged in business with me. They're not giving me advice. They're not helping me wash my clothes. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. They're just sitting there. And I guess they've been sitting there for a long time. I don't know if their mind gets wiped every week. I don't know if they change places. I don't really know. But it seems like they didn't like that as much as they would have liked living here in this house with me. Which is why they probably shouldn't have sold me out to whomever the fuck it was that they sold me out to. Right? Now, whether that's cartels or whether that's flesh peddlers in Damunsk or whether it's German paramilitary, doesn't fucking matter. Doesn't fucking matter. It's somebody else's problem. Now, a couple of people that I've met in my past life, and it certainly is the past, they probably don't want to answer my questions about, hey, how come you look different? And, hey, at what point did you decide you were going to lie to me and steal all my shit? And how do you feel about getting caught? You know, they don't want to discuss these things. Instead, they'd rather just continually drink and probably not get access to the stuff that they used to use to reprogram each other in this cult that they used to have. See, there's this ability that exists because of chemistry, and then there's these people who have been taking advantage of that a lot, right? And I've come to realize that most people assumed that I either was doing that or I wanted to do that, and that I must have been aware of what my father and his friends were doing, and that I must have done this and I must have done that, and that must have been what happened in high school, and it must have been this. Oh, no. I'm new to this world. The stuff that I'm not talking about that some people listening know all about. I'm not going to mess with that. I don't mind all that. I think it's fucking funny. Now, I understand why certain elements of Belgab wanted to torture my friend. Here's the trouble. Here's the trouble with that. Number one, it didn't work. Number two, it was against the law. Number three, you're all caught. Number four, well, I guess there are some high-level inner party members that really don't like me, right? So I guess that makes it a hate crime. And then I don't really mind that out of the 33 women that were pretending to be my girlfriend, I don't really mind that all of them are busy. I don't really even mind that there's one in prison, right? That woman and her gang lied to me about everything. And if it were not for the presence of children in this situation, I would have left. I would have just said, fuck you. Because, well, I still don't know what exactly happened. But when a woman shows up at your house with half her hair gone, doesn't want to answer your questions, and just wants to have sex with you, she's trying to send you a message. That message is, don't ask questions. Just go with it. I didn't quite go along with that exactly, since I certainly had questions. And then I don't really know all the political ins and outs of all this stuff. All right. But essentially, I'm really doing you all a favor by not answering your questions that I'm sure you have, by not making things worse, and by not minding that there's somebody who thought it'd be a good idea to come to my house multiple times, not tell me the truth ever. Apparently, he had some sort of deal where he was able to use some sort of technology in combination with other technologies. And I guess, long story short, I guess he thought he had a good thing going. Whether he did or not is completely unknown to me, right? But he and at least two other groups, they're currently waiting for me to leave this house, or for me to make a mistake, or for me to go to jail or something, because they don't have any other option than coming back to this house. And then why the house is so important to them, or what their connection was to it before, or where the lamp went, or well, there's lots of other questions that remain based on how the ambush was handled. Now, I remember it pretty well, but I haven't seen the tape. And then I'm not mad at the members of law enforcement who came here. I will say this. I'm glad these things happened. For one thing, it's allowed me to demonstrate to the world that I do know a couple things about keeping my mouth shut. It's also allowed me to say things that I couldn't say otherwise. Like, fuck you, officer. Still, I don't really know how I would take advantage of the situation more than I have if I were of a mind to do so. But I don't want to exploit the situation. Others apparently do and have and are. Right? Now, I'm okay with that, since they're clearly fighting over something important. And then whatever that is that seems so important to them, it's not going to seem very important later. This house is a church and it's my residence, and then through a weird set of circumstances, I'm the lord of the demesne, and then if I leave, or if I stop being the lord of the demesne, the spirits here do whatever the fuck spirits do. Until then, they're kind of bound to do stuff that benefits me. And as it turns out, getting sent to prison for a meth empire doesn't benefit me. Laundering money for a bunch of goons who like to get away with all kinds of shit doesn't benefit me. And not telling me what's going on and letting me figure it out, it may not benefit me, but it definitely entertains me. Okay? Now, I'm not sure what the rules are exactly, but there's a bunch of people on the internet who want me to hurry up and get this over with, right? And for years, they've been stalking me and surveilling me and hounding me, expecting that to work. Okay? It hasn't really actually worked. For one thing, it's just told me that there's something going on. For another, it's given me something to talk to my sweetie's mother about. And it's also, it's allowed me to embarrass certain people. Like whoever the fuck is in charge of George Noory. Now, I don't know who that is, but it turns out there isn't really a guy named George Noory. There's a computer algorithm that makes anybody sound like George Noory, right? And then these people who are in control of the George Noory brand, apparently they just do that so they can get chicks. Remember the paranormal date thing? Okay, so apparently it was this really long, complicated thing to wrest control of some sort of technology from the Art Bell faction, and then use it to, I guess, turn everybody into homofags? I'm not sure. Not being gay, don't really have much to do with that, right? And then not being a traitor, I've decided to simply just watch and not try to get involved, right? It used to be that I used to have an opinion on who my ex-girlfriend was, but that was before I found out, oh, I'm not breaking up with Grapefruit. Oh, no. For one thing, apparently it's deemed by many to be the worst possible experience that she can possibly have as punishment compared to what she was going to be doing, which, it probably sounded good, right? I'd love to listen to the conversations that the sex pred team had with this poor woman while I was being run all over the countryside. Basically, they were doing their best to break up our relationship and to control the woman and then to get rid of me, right? Unfortunately, I didn't really want that woman. It was this other one. And then whether she's alive or dead, it's pretty academic at this point. I saved certain people from an outcome that would have been a lot more unpleasant. One person apparently got smashed in the face with a fire extinguisher after leaving a convenience store. Now, I don't know why that happened, but I can guess. And then I didn't really have anything to do with that, and I'm certainly sympathetic, but I can see why people get smashed in the face with a fire extinguisher. I can see why people have been irate. And I can see why the woman that came back from her business trip and then was weaponized against me, I can see why she wasn't that much of a use to, I'm going to say here, the enemy, right? since apparently, I guess she wasn't supposed to be hanging around me for so long. I don't know. It seemed odd. And then I don't know the relationship between all the people who drive the asset and then how many different assets there are. And, I just don't know these answers. I'm not going to need to know them. And probably, I'm not going to tease my girlfriend when I'm allowed to have another one. I'm not going to say, "Hey, honey, do you remember being a Gorgon?" She doesn't. I believe she's seen the tape. I don't know who has seen the tape. I don't know who's been telling the truth about it, but I do know there was an event. And then nobody's asked me questions about it, which seems odd, since I actually know an awful lot about it. And, I guess the people who are accused of doing something wrong, I guess they're currently not allowed to talk to me. I don't know if that's because their lawyers have forbidden them from talking to me, or if they're just psychically unable to do it. There's a lot I don't know. But there's a lot I do know. Like what happened to Karen Silkwood. Remember her? She was like, oh my God, I got proof. And they ran her ass off the road. Do you remember that guy who got blown up by a drone in Los Angeles? I forget what his name was. He was some hotshot reporter. And he apparently got evidence that some high mucky muck military guy was involved in something or other. And so he gets in this fancy car and he drives lickety-split towards the Jewish embassy, is the story. And then they lit his ass up with a Reaper drone or something. I don't know. Something. Because that's what the military can do. And when I say military, I pretty much mean anybody who has hardware and knows why certain people need to die. Now, I don't really want to die anytime soon. I know that I was the target of several attempts to kill me. I won't list them all off because it'll sound like I'm bragging. But I'm still in the house where not only was I raped and my friend raped and various other terrible things happened. They filled the house with white smoke and had it lit with these weird fluorescent lights and satanic chanting. And then I went to sleep on my bed, curled up into a fetal position, not knowing if I was going to die or not. And thinking to myself, oh, well, this is, I guess this is what the Jews felt like in Auschwitz or some shit, right? Apparently a bunch of people thought I needed to be taught a lesson. One of whom was a Jew. Hi, junkie rockhound. I'm glad that we've gotten past that phase of a relationship. I like being your friend. I like being not married to you. And then I like knowing that whatever your fucking scam idea was, well, you didn't get to pull it off. I don't want to go into too many details, but they started a war over grapefruit, and they started a war over the bill that's being run up to handle all this shit. I can't really make that absolutely incontrovertible true, but well, let's just say grapefruit's very important to everybody, but she's also important to me. Now, it may seem like I'm insane to everyone because I've gone out of my way to make it seem like I am. And for another, I've been pretty stressed. So it'd be a little weird if I was just this emotionless robot, right? Living at the eye of the storm. I'm not an emotionless robot. I miss my sweetie. However, I don't miss having a sweetie that's being maneuvered around the world by pimps and thugs and dudes who can download themselves into her consciousness. Not quite sure how that works. This whole possession thing. Really not sure at all. I know that it does happen. Don't need to know how or why. I don't need to describe all the things I know about quantum entanglement or how time traveling works. I don't need to go at length about these things. Maybe later. Right now, I don't have to. There are people on the surface of the world, even now, who are still desperately trying to figure out a way to get me to feel sad about my teeth, to get me to feel sad about what's happened to my girlfriends. I don't really give a shit what happened to them. They lied to me. They left me. I imagine they turned out to not have very good times. Yeah. Why'd they leave me? Well, maybe they were ordered to. Maybe they were bored. Maybe this, maybe that. I'm not too worried about it. Ever since I discovered, they can bring souls down from heaven and put them into Archangel Metatron with the help of Archangel Sandophon. Like apparently that's how certain things have happened for a few people. I don't know what other people do, but the first time I found myself standing before a person who was obviously dead and was driving a body that was being piloted by someone in heaven looking through some mirror. Well, I mean, I wanted to have sex with them, but I knew that if I did, number one, it wouldn't count. Number two, it would be filmed. Number three, I don't know if that's what Archangel Metatron is for, right? Unless it's on a different schedule. I don't know, some sort of schedule involving the Jews and golems and prostitution and the Khazarian mafia and that war in the Middle East. And they're still fighting over Gaza. Huh. Yeah, all that happened over me in certain ways that it would be difficult to touch base on, right? So obviously they can't just pay me off. Obviously they have to do something about, I don't know, how many fake Jack Stars are there? Yeah. Apparently it's a big deal. I guess I should have done something about it. I don't know. I'll tell you this. I'm still focused on how I was asked to help with somebody's children. And I have helped with those children. I have given examples of behavior that I would like to be emulated by those children. I've shown them what can be done without being violent. And I guess by virtue of me standing here doing what I'm doing for several years, I guess that meant that all of their parents and their secret drug addictions, I guess those had to get rooted out. I think that's what happened. Yeah, I'm not really sure exactly. Definitely something. Now, I don't have to go to rehab, but I'd be happy to, right? However, I don't really want to go without my sweetie, since apparently my sweetie is being held hostage as a rape doll by somebody who is tired of her and just wants to get out. They just want to get away. Since I guess they never actually liked the girl that they convinced to leave me behind. So I guess they probably shouldn't have stolen my shit using my friend as an unwitting pawn. I guess they shouldn't have done that. Since they didn't get away with anything, they're really embarrassed now. I don't need to quit things. Somebody asked me last week on Telegram, why'd you relapse? Relapse? Oh, I see. So there's somebody else who's desperate to see their wife or their girlfriend or something. They're desperate enough to agree to terms. And they apparently have seen the real thing much sooner than I have. I really haven't decided whether to become a chemically dependent person or not. I know that if I end up dating a woman who's chemically dependent, that'll be fine. I can handle that. And then if I end up dating a virgin, well, I won't mind if she just crawled out of a cloning vat 3 days before. You know, I'm pretty flexible. Yeah. And the people who have been trying to manipulate the situation from behind the scenes, they're fucked. They're in so much fucking trouble. I don't know who they are. I don't need to know. I have people for that. And I don't really begrudge them for doing everything they can to get out of the trap they're in. It's a pretty cunning trap. I came to this place with two people. I said to them what the arrangement was, and then they just kept drinking and ignored me. And as a result of that, everything they do is fucked. And I'm standing here waiting. Now, how that ends up getting worked out, that's fine with me. It involves a whole bunch of Native Americans who all get to have a say in it, since I guess people have figured out that I'm serious about loving my sweetie, right? Whether or not my sweetie is the Queen of Hawaii or not is of no interest to me. No concern whatsoever. But since she was apparently juiced up and abducted while I was sitting in jail for Christmas 3.5 years ago, apparently this is a big deal to some people, up to and including the World Court, The Hague, right? In comparison to all that, my lack of running water isn't really that big of a concern, especially since it allowed me to figure things out. Like, why did I get a postcard addressed to Weyerhaeuser from my mother's trustees, estates management? I like him. He's cool. He couldn't tell me the truth, but that's okay. He doesn't have to. And then I'm not mad at him. I'm not mad at anybody. Yet. Right? Yet. The ironic thing is that all of this could be handled really easily, except somebody decided to make it difficult. The house to my left, I'm facing to the south, the house to my left was firebombed by a fire elemental, and then apparently someone else came and deliberately burned the place down. I guess that's because the person to the left was not protected and has incurred the wrath of the locals. To the right of me, neighbor Shane's compound, where nothing happens, where I can't set foot, and he's a good neighbor. I don't know if he has to be the kind of neighbor that he is now, but it could be that he's being pushed around by other people. I don't know. It could be some sort of trickster demon, or it could be a malevolent spirit that's annoyed that it's been caught, since it has been caught. I don't know caught where, right? But there's a bunch of people who apparently can move people in and out of bodies and traffic them that way, who have been setting up shop in this part of the world. That's actually kind of neat, except I guess they did it wrong, and they broke some rules. And more importantly, they pissed off my ancestors. Now, I didn't come here to live alone, nor did I come here at all thinking it was going to be a fucking gold mine. So I'm just going to stand pat and wait, right? George Noory is my nigger. That's okay. I free him and allow him to go on his own way, since, in spite of the ridiculous corruption and the over-the-top tomfoolery that happens, I still don't want to get in trouble for breaking down a good thing. Yeah, I just don't want to get in trouble over it. I want to be able to be allowed to walk freely in public, which essentially means that all the people who have been pretending to be me have to get rewound up and then dealt with on some level of authority I don't probably understand at all. Now, thankfully, I won't have to witness any of this stuff. But hopefully, when I run into people again in the future, they're not going to mess with me, since I don't have to be this nice. I may not stay with her, but I will tell you that I don't typically break up with women by having a sex pred team roll into town and then fuck everybody up and then use the police to, no, that doesn't happen. Especially since the one that I like, apparently she's back to life again, or able to speak, or something. I'm not quite sure how it works. I just wasn't informed, and I wasn't invited to those kind of parties. I wouldn't mind knowing later on, but I'd like to be told by the woman herself. And then if the woman is being used as a hostage pawn, well, that would be biblically appropriate for somebody to do with the Queen of Hawaii, or the Queen of, or whatever. It's all pretty stupid. It's all really stupid. That's okay. That's okay with me, since it was stupid in the first place. When I was told by a woman who had bred with an Austrian that she wanted my dead mother's wealth to pay for her 2 half-breed children that she had with 2 different baby daddies. Now, I don't know why that was floated past me. It seemed almost... It seemed as though she wasn't aware of the long-standing rivalry between Hungary and Austria. It seems as though she didn't understand the situation. That was when there was just 3 of them. It was like there was 2 sisters and an overarching mother. It was like that anyway. I don't know what it is now. Nobody tells me. Nobody informs me. And apparently there's a whole bunch of stuff happening in probate under military jurisdiction, which, is just fine with me. The military knows what it's doing better than I do. I'm biased. I don't want to take any possible chance of allowing my own personal prejudices to contaminate the proceedings. I think that's why Joan of Arc got burned at the stake. I don't want to get burned at the stake. What I want is for my sweetie to stop doing what she's doing and then to help me out with some things. But apparently that can't be done here because then people would see. And then I guess that would be embarrassing because then it would look like she was my slave. But she's not. And even if she is my squaw, she's the last one. And then all the other squaws that have been made, I'm going to have to say illegally. I guess they're all going to suddenly wake up and then start stabbing their partner in the liver. I'm not really sure what's going on. I do know that I haven't been embraced by certain people who apparently thought that it would be easy to deal with me. I'm actually incredibly easy to deal with. But number one, no deals. Number two, my birthday really is 5/5. Number three, all the stuff that's been recorded and turned into various little videos on YouTube, those all get reused in the future. See, since people are going to go back in time and they're going to say, well, how the fuck did he do that? And then why did he do it? At some point, future historians will have only one choice. They can just go back into time and insert themselves into the time stream, and they can live the life that I lived. I expect that most will not be able to hack it. It really sucks. It really sucks. But this is what it took to bring her back. And if she has to suck some loser's dick for another few months, well, that's certainly a lot better than the winter you spent at Valley Forge, right? I knew that she was capable of that kind of thing before, and then when I deliberately wound her up and sent her at Belgab, I meant that, because I had sat around the other house for a long time, and when it came time for anything to happen that was decent, instead of someone showing up and saying anything nice, well, they sent a woman who claimed to work for the Department of DSH. There's Department of Homeland Security, right? Not that one. Department of Social and Health. Department of Social and Health. Anyway, this woman attempted to infect me with an XTD and then didn't. Now, why that happened that way, and then why that was the first person that dated me after my mother died, I don't know. And then why the one time I used eHarmony, I got a woman who I know now is clearly FBI. I'm not opposed to dating for somebody who's in the FBI, but if they don't tell me, then it's awkward. And then if they don't acknowledge my special social status class and they lie to me, well, I mean, it's not against the law to lie to me, but there are special consequences. Anyway, I haven't thought about hiring a lawyer or doing much of anything, mostly because things are getting handled. All in bed. I'm standing pat. If everyone else isn't happy with where they're at, don't worry. It'll change pretty soon. Yeah. And the people who are skeptical and upset and cranky with me, they exist in two camps. The first camp are people who have figured out what's going on, and they're keeping their mouth shut, and they're watching to see what happens. The second camp has no idea what's going on. They're actively colluding together at the ministrations and at the command of some lunatic who has convinced them that it's a good idea to talk shit about me in public. As public as Telegram actually is. I don't know if it's a bot programming thing or if it's just a blind hatred thing or what, but Yeah, it's going to get handled. And I didn't have anything to relapse from. I never said that I was going to, I promise I'll never smoke again. I never agreed to any such terms. And then someone else pretending to be me has been agreeing to terms. And then someone else decided that they were just going to not bring me things. And then someone else was going to put out a bunch of false paper that claimed I had this. I don't have any of those things going on. What I have is a meat market surrounding my position. And much like George Lazenby in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, there's no way out for me and a wife to get away. There's no possible situation where she and I just link up together and we live happily ever after. That's never going to happen. Since even if me and the one do that, that leaves behind at least 5 and maybe as many as 340 other people with their asses hanging out in the wind. That's good. I don't think any of those people ever thought they were going to get caught for anything. I think usually they just retreat to their home dimension, or they cut a deal with Satan, or they fucking beam out. I don't know. But they're all stuck here. And they can't get the stuff that they're chemically dependent on. Damn. It's a shame that I can't just whip up the new formula and go visit them. Isn't that just a downer? It's a shame that I can't do that for money and then pay taxes for it. I mean, I have everything here that I need. Apparently, it's not that hard to do. And then apparently I was expected to, be excited by that. I didn't want to get a house with a bunch of people who were trying to run the game on me. I was forced into it. What I wanted to do was get high and get laid. And then instead, the first person I chose to date after my mother died tried to infect me with herpes. And then just ran off. And then kept on working in various roles as part of some collusive conspiracy in order to do something I do not know what. Okay. Now, I'm not mad at that person anymore. I kind of get it, actually. But the people who arranged all this are so blind with hatred that it didn't occur to them that if I wasn't a drug and sex addict, that there was very little reason for me to do anything besides stand around and wait, since all of them broke the terms of the trust and then tried to use the trust to cover up their malfeasances in a variety of ways. I don't know how, don't need to know how. I just simply know that I'm the sole beneficiary. None of the marriages changed that. I haven't touched any of the money. And the people who have been running around touching the money, well, I don't need to know where they all are, but somebody does. And those somebodies have been watching the people doing all their little tricks from a vantage point that they didn't have before, since all of the amnesia spells and the redirection things, all the little monitor spirits. I don't know what these fucking crazy lesbo witches do. I'm not a witch. I'm not a warlock. I'm a sorcerer. And I didn't want to be a sorcerer, although I did decide that if I was ever gonna, that would be the one to be, since it's remarkably free of certain weird side effects like sacrificing your soul or betraying your country or having to deal with fucking shrieking, bitch shrew, crazed harpy women, right? Not that there's anything wrong with harpy women, but it turns out that some people just don't have a choice anymore after a certain point. Now, the illusion of choices has been given to me, but I already made my choice. I want to see the chick that turned into a Gorgon. I want to ask her if she remembers. I want to talk to her about the fight. I want to know what she says about how I saved her life. I want to know. I want to go back and talk to the psychologists that we had talked to before then and say, hey, guess what? I know why you couldn't tell me this and this and this, so let me tell you what I did. Hey, look at my girlfriend. Does she seem okay? I don't know what the fuck kind of girlfriend I'm going to get. I don't know if I will get a girlfriend. Maybe it'll be like dating Harvey. You ever see that movie? The Invisible Rabbit? Invisible Rabbit. Invisible Rabbi. So, I still don't know what's going to happen. But when somebody said to me that they want to know why I chose a relapse, I wasn't aware that that was a thing. And then that person started talking shit about there being some sort of 50-day waiting period. Okay, so the woman that was going to be pretending to be grapefruit, I don't know what the deal was, but they needed to have me off the sauce, supposedly, for 50 days. And that was the only way that I could, I guess, get the future where the bad guys go away and then I'm finally able to be left alone with my girlfriend and her girlfriend. And then, not that we were going to sing Kumbaya, but I would prefer that than to have like one girlfriend with me and then we have to be on the run from the other one. There's this weird thing that happens with revenants and with people who, for want of a better word, people who have been triggered to be no blink assassins, right? Now, this is all way past my pay grade, and I don't really care to have my dick sucked that much. However, since apparently there's some dudes who have been taking advantage of the power vacuum situation, and they've been taking their vengeance out on those two women, as well as me, thinking that we were some triumvirate of power. Oh, no. Their triumvirate was somebody else. I was supposed to be their victim, and then both of them, as well as the third, imagined that they were going to use me as some sort of get-out-of-jail-free card. Okay. Well, I went to jail a bunch. And here's the thing about going to jail. When the justice system discovers that they've been played and they've put the wrong person in jail over and over and over, and they've been opened up to liability, they don't just take the L. Okay? They have insurers. People want to know, how did this happen? What's the situation? What's going on with this koozie guy? Well, I can't currently be questioned since I'm being held in protective custody under military jurisdiction. I used to say that to people and they thought I was full of shit. Turns out, no, I wasn't actually full of shit. It's that important of a deal. And as much as I'd love to talk about it, as much as I'd love to tell everybody all the exciting stuff, all I can really tell you is that George Noory is my nigger. There is no George Noory. It's an amalgam of industry professionals who have been working together as a unit, as a team, as basically a conspiracy of morons, right? And rather than have them all drugged through the mud, these are people who not only made the fake Epstein lists, but they have the capacity to edit it from the future, which is kind of weird. Be that as it may, I don't really want to get involved with all this shit, since the first thing I thought when I found out that my girlfriend and my girlfriend could exist at the same time at all, well, I wanted to play Siamese chess with them, right? Other people wanted to rape them. Oddly enough, raping my girlfriend and her girlfriend, that's just never occurred to me. I figured that was what was going on, but I didn't know what was going on. I simply knew that, well, first they sent a woman to try and give me an STD, and then, well, a woman called, said she was drinking, and then proceeded to talk to me for hours. And then in the morning, she said that she drinks a lot and she didn't remember anything and hung up on me. Now, Why that happened, I don't really need to know, right? I don't really want to embarrass anybody. Mistakes were made, I'm going to say. And then I don't know exactly how this is going to get arranged, but it's going to be arranged without me getting involved. Because maybe the justice system wants to say, okay, we're going to take all the men and we're going to put them in the prison with the sausage grinder. After a while, we'll kill them, but first we're going to torture them first. And in the meantime, all their women who no longer have pimp daddies, we're just going to give them to Michael Kuzi. Like in Dune, when Paul Atreides takes out, what's that guy's name? Janus. Is it Janus? Giannis? Anyway, so Paul kills this guy who challenges him, and then he inherits his wife. Chani. And she calls him Usul. Do you guys read Dune a lot? Or do you just watch the new movies? Anyway, long story short, I don't know. Maybe I might like having a harem, right? But the important thing is that I get to talk to my sweetie. Since my sweetie and I had an arrangement. If she actually wants to break up with me, well, we can do that. And then last I heard, I don't need a whole goddamn color guard of fucking invisible spooks fucking doing that with me. I don't need somebody else offering to fucking negotiate a new fucking child bride for me. I don't need people poisoning my dope. I don't need people telling me what I can and can't do. I don't need people telling me that I have to quit something so that I can see somebody who I don't even know exists. You feel me? Now, as flattering as it is to be the center of so much attention, I've decided to simply let due process take its course. What that means is there was a commander. I demonstrated that he was unfit for command. He was gently removed. They gave a new commander. New commander's a dick too, but that's fine. He has to be a dick because I'm not in his jurisdiction. And yet, I'm not his enemy or his ally either. I'm like an anomaly that somebody has to deal with in a complicated way rather than the simple way of just throwing a whore at me or throwing money at me or offering me a piece of the methamphetamine pie or whatever the fuck. Oh, no. I don't want any of that shit. What I want is for Sweetie to see every single one of these fuckers get popped like a goddamn light bulb. And for her to know that, oh yeah, I did that. Yeah. Mostly this is so that she doesn't harass me about getting a job or helping her with her son finding a job or letting her brag to her friends about how much money I make. I don't even know if she has any friends left. Did she ever have friends? It's possible that the Sweetie that I like is the one that everybody hated. I don't really know. Since nobody's talked about things, and then the people who have sent me messages have done so over YouTube while reading tarot and acting like they're normal. I had another guy, he apparently had bought some commercial time on YouTube, and I don't usually watch commercials, but on YouTube is a little different. And one time I found myself being harangued by a guy who went from being neutral to pretty much talking directly to me, which is something YouTube can do with targeted advertisers. Anyway, he was upset because I was getting a deal that he wasn't getting. He was irate because, well, apparently he didn't want fentanyl in his shit either. And then because he was involved in selling, he had to pay a different kind of schedule thing. It's like paying royalties, basically. Long story short, I don't want to be doing what I'm doing either. But somebody insisted, right? And then somebody else talked all kinds of shit about me while both simultaneously pretending to be me and setting me up to fail, and then planning on either taking my body or just my name. I don't know. But the whole fucking house of cards has collapsed. That's why I don't really anticipate having any problems when I go to court, or rather when I appear in court. I may or may not have a psych eval done by then. I don't really need to get one done. The court is well within its rights to order one, but I'm also well within my rights to refuse. Additionally, I've taken it upon myself to just stand or sit or lay around masturbating. I've been in the same house that's under surveillance for years. This has enabled it to be possible to distinguish me from all the other people who have been running around trying to use my identity, committing all kinds of crimes, doing all kinds of bullshit, thinking they were going to get away with it, since they always had before. And it was imagined that that's the kind of thing that I wanted to do. No. What I wanted to do was breed cats. And instead, all of a sudden, there's pigeons. What I wanted to have was a cookout, maybe? Instead, I had women pretending to be each other, having to arrange these weird shadow puppet scenarios in this house that I guess they all knew about before. Huh. Fascinating. Now, since I haven't complained about this, it's not going to be fraud. Probably not going to be embezzlement. The FBI agent who I accused of embezzling, oh no, she wasn't embezzling. She was just being clumsy. And that's okay, because I'm pretty sure everybody but me knew that she was FBI. Pretty sure. That certainly explains all of her behavior. And as well, since I haven't sold anybody out, I'm glad nobody's mad at me. But the thing about felons whose lives hang in the balance because they chose to be felons, it turns out that they get pretty upset when people sell them out, like that Bay of Pigs thing, and whatever that Jew war was about. Something to do with Gaza. Something to do with somebody not holding up their end of the deal. Right? Because apparently somebody floated the idea of blaming everything on me and told everybody it would be a good idea. Well, I guess it was, if you wanted to see what a non-vampiric Hungarian looks like when he's pissed. Like, I'm besides myself with what I've seen. It makes perfect sense why I'm not going to talk about it. And it makes even more sense why my sweetie, as well as that whore she calls a mother, I could see why they didn't think I was going to be able to do anything. Okay? However, obviously, I can do things. Right? And in the future, I'll probably be willing to do things with them, since it's not a joke. I do love my family. Not because they're stupid, but because they meant well. And before they got a chance to continue their meeting, apparently somebody fucked things up. Now, whether that's from a intentional meltdown or an accident meltdown, like why did the woman, why were there 4 women this year? Why did I walk in on an ambush? Why did I have to go 400 miles? See, these are all questions that are still out there lingering. Right? And since it's all a matter of highly classified military intelligence and technology, it's kind of hard for the police at the local level to figure out what's what. Right? And it's hard because it's meant to be hard. Right? I'm not going to tell them. But I'm also not going to let that woman go, nor let that other one go. I had never planned on letting them go. And somebody thought that neighbor Shane would be the ideal person to keep an eye on things. Whatever. He's either still there or he's a holoderm. I don't know what they're doing, but it's a big old compound that could be used for something. And on the other side of the river, there's another compound. And then I told somebody last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, that I was going to go over there. And they didn't say not to, but that's largely because they probably thought that I would be arrested quickly. I've learned not to telegraph my moves on Telegram very much, since I've discovered that there's a ongoing criminal syndicate of goons that have no possible out other than taking me down. Now, here's the thing. I don't actually want to be in command of this area. The fact that I am mostly is just because they killed everybody else and they've interfered with the usual flow of divine power or something. Right? And while it may seem like a lame thing to do, I would have been happy to have traded all this away for my sweetie. Except, number one, they spent several months pretending she was either dead or didn't exist in the first place, and juicing up her sisters and turning them into whores for quite a while. Now, I guess that's what's done, right? But that sure sounds like a complication that probably didn't need to happen. Yeah. But I guess the people who were trying to send a message to me, I guess they wanted to make real certain that I wasn't, going to forget, or that I'd always be traumatized or whatnot. That's because they're sex and drug addicts and they think everyone else is. Plus, they're in denial about their own situation. I don't need to have sex with that woman ever again. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I do need her to be alive. And then I do need the ongoing system of domination and control that exists on planet Earth that's fueled by Khazarian slavery and prostitutes juiced up on dope to whatever extent is needed to fucking maintain their mission. I don't really like that. So I'm going to leave it up to the courts to decide how they're going to handle that. And then in the meantime, all I have to do is just wait for my sweetie. I don't really want to have sex with that woman that she accused me of cheating on her with again, but I would. Except apparently she's been captured as well, and now she's basically unable to have a conversation, which is probably for the best. Like, I didn't hate her, but I didn't expect I didn't expect certain things to be the case. Like being openly lied to by somebody who was getting help from me. It's like there's the higher self and the lower self and the true self. But with an archangel, there's also 4 additional players who apparently vie for supremacy and dominance. Long story short, my sweetie's sisters were jealous of her and her relationship with me. Since, as far as I know, my sweetie's the dumb one who, I don't know, sold out first, or I don't know. But her only backup plan was me. And the rest of them had no backup plan because I guess they just get juiced up by their new owner when they get conquered and sold off or something. I'm not sure how it works at all. I don't care to know. Some women are actives and some are not, I guess. The original plan was for all the humans on Earth to be like that. And then I don't know how the trans movement falls into this. But I'm not waiting to have sex with her. I'm not waiting to get back together with her. In fact, I don't know if I ever was with her at all. But undoubtedly, that woman deserves a chance to let her know, or rather to let me know, that, well, if she needs sanctuary, she can claim it. I don't know if we're married or not. Our rings and knives and hats were stolen, and all her sisters sold her out, and then they're all caught. I could intercede, right? But I don't really want to, since for years these women sat around waiting for me to be out of the way. And while they were doing that, they were running around having drugs and sex with men who either looked like me or came to think that they needed to be me or some kind of thing. I'm not sure at all how it happened. Cool. That's exactly what I would expect a bunch of ruffians to do with military power once they have achieved it, since they're sex and drug addicts. The end result of abusing these military fuck-me chemicals is that a person becomes a crazed, drug and sex-fueled homofag, which is kind of built into the design spec. It has to do with hiding things and the condition of the mind. See, for example, hey Shane, neighbor Shane is to my west. He hears me. He's in charge of surveillance. He listens to me. That's as close as he gets to meth. And then if he hadn't been an asshole, we'd be able to talk. But instead, he has to listen to me and then write a report about what I'm doing. And since I'm a very clever and competent survivor of childhood sexual abuse, it looks like I'm just a lunatic drug user who keeps relapsing. Except I've never agreed to stop anything. So they need somebody else to stop things because the guy who's trying to get away and his partners, yeah, they're addicted to drugs, yeah. And then they would like to keep on using drugs and keep on having sex and keep on getting away with things. That's too fucking bad. They're not going to get to. They're going to get something that's modified in ways I can't imagine. Since, well, I don't have to have sex with somebody else, but if I were to do so, it's probable that one of these, either 6 or 19 or 322, these women who have been juiced up to believe certain things, when they discover that they're not having sex with me, they're getting raped by somebody who juices them up with dope and makes them forget. It's amazing what you can do with hypnotic drugs these days. Anyway, when these women find out what's been done to them, they're probably going to start going stabby. That'd be fine with me, frankly. Since I guess they've all been killed already and they came back as Valkyries and then they got re-enslaved. I'm not sure how that works exactly. I don't really care to know. Maybe it's a euphemism. Maybe not. I didn't know there was an Archangel Sandalphon until just the other day. I tried to publish some audio on YouTube and it was deleted. Now, I suppose it could have just been my phone, schizoing out. But I used to have multiple phones and multiple computers. I used to have a backup system. Now I've got just one phone. So when somebody doesn't like what I'm saying, they can just go, and I imagine they think that's good enough. It's not. And I imagine they didn't think I could do anything about it. Unfortunately, that's where they're wrong. Since I was able to call 911 and then complain to the Internet Crime Complaint Center. And then I could go to the FBI today, but I don't really want to, since once I go to the building and I start answering questions, it might unspool. Like, for example, is Art Bell dead? And if so, what happened to his will? And then what happened to Ramona's will? And then where's Aaron? And then why do those people act like there's some kind of weird... Oh, I know why. Oh, yeah, because they didn't know I was there. And then now they still don't know why. And then the whole reason why I'm involved in this has nothing to do with dark matter anymore. Oh, no. It has to do with people being stubborn. Now, I'm kind of locked in with no way out. Either I can respectfully end my relationship with Sweetie, or I can just start banging broads. Women were offered to me early on. At first it was, oh, Michael, we know you must be mad at her, so let's get a bunch of girls and get some drugs and have a party at your house. That was actually an idea that was floated. No, I wasn't mad at her at all. And then I was well aware there was more than one. And then I don't know if I'm angry with half and happy with half, or if it's all just one person. I don't know. I'm not supposed to know. It's supposed to be shielded from casual view. Okay. Technically, I'm not even supposed to know that she's back alive again. That's okay. She never died. And whatever happened here on Christmas Eve, well, that's just none of my business, right? Although my neighbor knows. Isn't that weird? And then the video of the fight. I don't know where it is. I haven't asked to see it since I don't really need to. I was there. And then I don't really want to gloat about it. Not a very good day for the American Special Forces troops. Because only because I'm nice do you still have your authority. If I had made a big cow out of all this, well, P. Diddy probably would have still gotten off, and my life would be a lot more complicated than it is now. Since it's pretty simple for me. I'm ready to just break up with my girl and then leave. And all the people who really, really, really needed me to not break up with any of the 5 or 6 women that were hypnotically programmed to believe they were that woman. Well, I don't know how they're going to get handled, but they're probably going to get handled by... Oops. Google Fi verified. Let's give it a shot. Unsurprisingly, that was a robot. After I reached out to the author of my mother's will and told him that I hadn't heard from the trustee in several months and there was no running water, etc., etc., he asked me a few questions and then said that he'd go do something about it. Haven't heard back from him, but since then, nearly every day, my phone's been lit up with all these spam calls, and it's always a robot. There seems to be 2 competing robots. One robot wants to give me a med alert, and sounds like he's from India. The other one sounds like women from the FBI that want me to say the magic code word so I call for extraction or something. I don't work for any of these agencies. I never have. And I'm not an MK active ultra agent, whatever. I'm not brainwashed into believing that I'm Michael Kuzi. I'm actually Michael Kuzi. I know why I'm here. I know what I'm doing. And I know also that, I don't need a bed alert. And I also don't need a whole bunch of spook lords blowing up my phone right when I'm trying to find out what's going on. Now, the reason why this is significant is because I could probably help unravel all this confusion a lot faster. However, I'm kind of annoyed, and apparently the people who are in a position to do so think that I don't need to have my sweetie in the house, which is odd since, well, I guess it's complicated. Well, while they worry about all that, various people from various agencies are looking at all my telemetry because I gave them permission to do so. I don't know if they're doing it from heaven or if they're doing an end run or something. I don't know. My legal team consists of Jesus Christ. I like it that way. Since I don't really want to embarrass anybody, I certainly don't want to publish a list of names and thus allow spurglords and their henchmen to go harass them. You guys know about Isaac Cappy? He was a dick. You probably don't know the whole story. He was a dick. He was also woefully unprepared to discover the stuff that he learned. And then why he was there at all? Well, because I guess he was the best available for the niche needs of procurement that certain entities in the entertainment system still require. It's kind of a fucked up thing. But long story short, I don't mind that guy got nailed in the back of the head twice and then pushed off an overpass. He probably deserved it. Elvis probably deserved what he got. Let's see, who else? Whitney Houston probably deserved it. Although it's really hard to say with some of these cases. since a lot of them are bodies left behind by people when they ascend to heaven through whatever means that takes place in. I've learned a lot about the afterlife and the laws of death and such. Most of the stuff that I've learned I'm not going to explain, but I'm also not going to pretend that Christopher Hitchens is dead. What happened to Christopher Hitchens? Remember him? Yeah, he used to be a real big deal. So when he died, in order to honor his memory, he had to pretend he didn't exist anymore, since he was a atheist. How the fuck these people broke into the industry must have had something to do with their ability to tolerate drinks and eventually pay lip service to the satanic homosex agenda, which I have since annihilated. But that was a real big deal for a long time. Now, I don't know what's going on with all that, but I'd like to go on with my life and then not live in this house, which is a fucking ground zero for all this bullshit. But that's going to require, well, some cooperation of some government officials. But before that happens, the military needs to find out how bad the leak is. They need to be able to run around and track down all the participants in a certain kind of conspiracy that, when I found out about it, I was disgusted and horrified. And even though I don't appear to be involved, I'm pretty sure the military doesn't want me to go anywhere, since I could explain the story quite easily. And then the only reason why I haven't is just because I think that would be impolite. Not because I don't think it needs to be told. So that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm not relapsing. It's not really a relapse if it's planned. And then as far as I know, my sweetie is addicted to smack. So it would be kind of awkward for me to give up things and then be on... Well, let's put it this way. The people who are interested in my case are way, way too interested in my sex life. And they're currently, they're all dating exes of mine who may or may not have been undercover. I'm not sure how that works. I know no woman ever came up to me and said, "Hi, I'm a cop, let's date." And then I do know that the woman I was dating had a whole bunch of friends with her, and then not a one of them told me anything about them being badged or anything, but at least one of them was. I figured that out when she was threatening to hit me with a metal stick in the Fred Meyer shoe department at 3 a.m. Full view of surveillance cameras. She was upset about something, but she wasn't telling me what it was. And probably what it was that she was upset about is that rather than tell me, "Hey, this is a situation," she instead tried to get me involved in her ring of deception or whatever. Now, the woman can be excused. Clearly she was victimized. And then whoever told her to do all that stuff, they're not excused. And that's the kind of thing that the court wants to find out about it without being at all obvious about it, right? They can't just walk up to me and ask me questions, because they can't. And then it's not the way things are done. Because for one thing, they don't do that with anybody else. Even Hillary. They didn't give her a list of questions. They went round and around about that. The woman was the Department of State leader. What do they call that? The head of state? Oh, Secretary of State. Yeah. She's Secretary of State, and they're asking her questions, and she says, "Well, write your questions down first and submit them to me." And they wouldn't do that. The reason why is because when a question is asked, it reveals too much information. And then the people who are typically charged with busting soccer moms for shipping dime bags, they're not really capable of handling the kind of high-level mentation that comes along with interrogating a high coven witch, for example, or a high priestess, or a hierophant, or black pope, or black pope as emeritus. They're not really used to doing that. And then the chemicals that allowed them to break the rules, basically, they can't get those anymore. For one thing, the laws of physics have changed. For another, none of the cooks who made them before want to make them again. for anybody. And for a third, well, I seem to be doing pretty okay figuring this out. And since my phone is wide open and I've already given permission for anybody to look at me, I guess we're just going to have to keep on going, since I don't really want to give up on Sweetie. I do want a new lover, but I want to talk with her first. And then it's important that Sweetie knows that it's okay what she's doing. She may not know what she's doing, but it's important that she knows that she's okay doing it. Since if she wasn't doing it for any reason at all, she'd probably go blender every day. Since things just didn't work out the way people imagined they would, right? And in my case, never in a bazillion years did I think that my friends were being held hostage chemically, that there was more than one that I didn't even know about, and that they were being used as bargaining chips in a cult of society members who basically didn't want to have their children turned into whores. And their plan for getting out of that was to have me replace their pimp daddy. And they did this by mind controlling a guy to come into my house, my residence rather, and give me a knife while I'm sleeping and to tell me that I could use it. And he also was sleeping in the house waiting for me. And when I woke him up, he said, "Dude, I got some GHB. Let's do it." Ordinarily, that'd be an okay thing to say, right? But since the house is under surveillance, and then I didn't want any fucking GHB, I wanted this clearly fucked in the head dude to get the fuck out of my house. That's why I gave him the car keys, and then I never saw him again, unless one counts the body of a cat that looked like it had been hit by a car that was huddled in a pile of clothes that I saw by the side of the road. So whether that guy was a cat the whole time, or whether he turned into a cat, or whether they really take method acting to the next level in this part of the world, I don't know. I do know that this is a highly defensible position. There's no reason for me to leave. I don't have anywhere to go. And since being driven from shelter to find myself destitute and living homeless on the streets of a city where I'm going to be forced to suck cock for drug money, that's the dream of many people. And then instead, I'm just hanging out here at the house. Not so very good for my sex life, certainly. Nor does it do much for my legacy. But what it does ensure is that things get taken care of appropriately. I don't know what the fuck I would do if I were Batman and I had to be a vigilante and start fucking cracking their fucking heads. Probably I would start cracking heads and then discover, oops, sometimes people are possessed by spirits that can just hop from body to body. And at that point, it doesn't really matter if you kill them, does it? Since they can just take over somebody else. I don't know what the rules are. I don't. I do know that nobody else does either. So rather than go off my own and come up with some cockamamie plan to get away after kidnapping the girl of my dreams, I'm just going to write it out. Since I'd prefer that she be alive, and then apparently she prefers to be alive with me, since whatever the fuck she thought before, she never in a million years thought that I could do everything that I've done. Since she can have her girlfriend, does she want the one that's been brainwashed into believing that drugs are bad, or does she want the one that's been brainwashed into being a dope whore? Does she want them both? Okay, then Sweetie gets two girlfriends. I'm still not going to want to have sex with all of them, but after a certain point, the question has to be asked: Who am I supposed to have sex with? Yeah, and then why was that person so outraged in the brain? Well, this goes all the way back to the COVID times. It has to do with being part of a gang. When I guess I was like a timeshare or something, and I guess these women were taking turns trying to bamboozle me. Apparently the guy who used to be in charge, he wasn't real big on telling the truth, right? And then he was under the impression that I was some kind of a spurred off idiot. No, actually. I don't know for sure if that woman is his daughter, but I know that I don't have to have sex with her on drugs. I had to know why she showed up on our first date high as balls, didn't admit it, didn't bring me a dose, and then didn't tell me not to use a condom, and then called the next morning and said that I was a rapist or something. I don't really need vengeance against that. I did want to figure out what happened, and then I barely understand. I probably won't talk about that story too much because it's private. Yeah. And then what I'd like to do is explain to the person who pulled a knife on me, asking about that woman's anus and my dick, what I did. Because what I did was, I got answers I could have had in the first place, but everybody involved was just too busy getting high and sucking cock to fucking tell me the truth. And then since they were planning on getting rid of me, or at best, putting me into a pigeon to be dealt with later, after they consumed my body through ritual goulash. Like, that sounds crazy, right? That's what they actually do. How they do it? No idea. Whether the guy that comes out of the pigeon is the same guy or just a speck of cosmic dust that they imbue with magical energy and turn it into a golem, I have no fucking idea. No fucking idea. Since I decided that wasn't really what I wanted to do. Yeah. And I don't know who it was that thought that it would be a good idea to just ignore what I said. But I'm guessing it was the guy who showed up right when it was time to leave the house again. It's funny, the same guy kept on showing up. And over the years, he got progressively more and more consumed by drugs. Huh. What did he do with Anita? Huh. Yeah, nobody ever told me that. What happened to Andy? What happened to Carl? Oh yeah, Carl supposedly got cancer. All those people who ran off to go do whatever, apparently they all live all over the country now. And then they do all their follow-up stuff online with all these fake names and these fake identities. And then they interfere with the normal flow of information on YouTube just by virtue of existing. I'd like to comment on that, but don't really want to interfere with ways and means. And then there's only so far I need to go to answer the question about my dick and that woman's anus and other things. It's pretty much vitally important that certain people know how that person responds to my information. And then I can't give that person the information until I make eye contact with them. So keeping her on ice away from here and then complaining and arguing about what drugs I'm doing while these fucking people are abducting and trafficking women after dosing them up with hypno drugs. Like, imagine it. They think they have permission, but I don't, and I'm supposed to be sober because apparently I've made some sort of deal to see somebody who needs me to be something for 50 days or something. And none of this was explained to me until I got shouted at by a bunch of goons on Telegram. This is not the way negotiations are meant to be done. Okay? And it's all the more clear to me now why there was a eye contact component to this entire arrangement. Since I never really wanted to give up on my sweetie. I was quite fond of her. And when I saw that there were other people who were going to push her around, most notably, whoever the fuck got her to go to Texas, Oklahoma, and California twice, whoever was juicing up for that, she probably deserved that. And I don't know if any of you are in trouble, but let me explain. You're done doing that kind of thing maybe forever, right? But certainly you're done doing it to me. I'm probably not going to be mad at you, but you're probably not going to respect me because I haven't changed that much. And then all of you have been exposed to be dope-slinging whoremongers whose entire scheme revolves around making a fake narrative to explain where the women went and then abducting them, brainwashing with drugs, and then blaming the guy left behind. Wow. What a brilliant battle plan. Huh. Well, it'll be up to the courts if they want to keep on doing that on American soil. I don't know what they do in Europe, but probably something pretty similar. I don't know what's going on in Britain, but damn. I mean, I love the royal family of Britain. However, well, you know, they could go find another island, and then London looks like kind of a shit show, doesn't it? Don't they still have that one guy, Sadida Khan? Didn't Britain get taken over by the Muslim horde or something? Didn't they kill their own princess? I don't know. It's a salacious story filled with all kinds of ruby details. And then, while it might be tempting for me to start spouting what I know ahead of time, I would prefer to be done to that kind of activity on television, getting paid. I want to be a pundit, all right? And then when I want to go home, and not only do I want there without getting killed, I want my sweetie to be still there or on her way, and for her to not be susceptible to brain napping or rewindment. And then I don't want her to have a shred of doubt in her mind about having chosen the right guy, since apparently it was intimated amongst the gossip annals of many that Michael Clifford Cousy wasn't smart, pretty, handsome, attractive, potent, qualified, worth a shit, basically. Yeah. Here's the thing. I'm not really worth a shit to somebody who wants to show up, be seduced, or seduce somebody, and then fulfill the contract and then take the money. Like, did you ever see Angel? Or rather, did you see Buffy? Remember the episode where Buffy and Angel have sex, and in the morning, Angel is like, he lost his soul. He was cursed. As soon as he was happy, he was going to become a beast again. Okay, something very similar in this situation. Okay. I didn't really want to find anybody. I wanted to find the truth. And then when I found out what the truth was, well, I had already begun to drink heavily, so that wasn't too much of a problem for me. But since then, the people who have been involved, none of them have really wanted to come forward and say, oh, look what we found out, dude, we gotta let you know. That means that all the people operating under color of law, ostensibly, they've all failed in their duty, and then they can be sued by whoever manages the trust, since they had a responsibility to keep me from harm, and by not telling me what was going on, they made it possible for me to stand here, pacing, sitting, whatever. Rather than deal with me fairly, they just sort of pushed me off to the side in their minds. And years later, I'm still here. Now, this is a problem for damn near everybody. So I don't really mind. Nobody's talking to me. I don't really mind getting treated like garbage by people online. Most of them have to, since if they reveal anything about their true feelings for me, the thuggy little pimps that control their lives are going to get upset. They might start giving them black eyes. Shelley, do you still have thoughts for that Jax Michelson guy? Damn you, Shelley. It's literally like that. Since, well, it's complicated, but basically everybody who needs to have a lover is afforded one by the state, except for me. And then rather than go to a doctor and say, excuse me, I'd like a sexual surrogate, or going off to the police and saying, hey, my girlfriend's been raped, or basically doing anything that was expected of me, I'm okay with chilling out and waiting. I want to see Beulah begging for mercy. I don't know. Maybe Sweetie needs to. Maybe Sweetie needs to. Maybe they need to sue each other. I don't know. I do know that I don't care. I have people with that. And everyone else apparently has their people as well, both leaning on them and for them to issue leading orders to. I don't know how it works. God willing, I never will. Since while I can't hurry up and get my sweetie out of Hawk, right? I can continue to just wait and be patient and then not flirt with anybody. There's a bunch of girls around here that I like. There's a bunch of women from my past that, I bet they've reconsidered. Oh, that guy? Oh, I thought he was stupid and retarded. No. That's just how I act when people lie to me and then pretend I'm going to have sex with them or something. Adult survivors of childhood sexual trauma tend to become extremely good actors. Now, I don't know why I became such a big deal such an early on, but I do know that nobody's told me the truth. They don't want me to know. It has a lot to do with super secret military things, right? And I know this because I've learned a whole bunch of super secret military stuff. Well, I've been surrounded by a bunch of fucking slack-jawed ape fucking moron fucking tree fucking idiot inbred redneck yokel scum. Although they're actually not like that down here at all. They're actually pretty smart. They're not smart enough to apologize, but then again, they don't really have to. They can apologize later, and then I guess they can apologize now to whoever they answer to, because the simple fact is I don't have to do anything besides prepare for my defense and be exonerated at trial. That's kind of an ongoing thing, right? Especially since some of these trials happen in divine court. There's also trials for the Fae. I don't know if they call it Fae court, but apparently the Fae have an invested opinion, given that I don't know who else cares about the enchanted frog pond here, but someone destroys it. No one's come by to fix it. And then the other two people who were supposed to be here with me under the terms of the original deal, well, I don't know where they are, and I don't know what drugs to give them to turn them back into their regular cells, but that's okay. That's okay. Whoever decided to put their fingers into the fucking wet batter of my bunt cake, well, they can answer to whatever authority they answer to. I'm pretty sure they're gonna, since it's disgusting what has happened, what's going to happen, what is going to continue to happen, and hopefully no more of that will happen. I don't know exactly how bad it's been, but that new formula that I mentioned, it is apparently going to be not susceptible to that kind of hacking, right? And I don't know who hacked the methamphetamine control code system, but I understand it's a very important military secret how to do that kind of thing, and I don't know how to do it. But people who do are currently out in the world, living off my mother's money, hoping against hope that they're going to get out of whatever the fuck they got into, and a lot of them apparently need me to be dead or negotiable for them to escape this planet or something. Something about this house. They've got to like pass through the gateway or some kind of shit. And rather than just ask me for permission, they've decided against that, right? I'm not surprised they think that they can just do another sexual ritual, or they can make up some new drug, or they can get me out of the way through some sort of manipulation of the courts. That's always worked before. It's not going to work this time, since I didn't want to be here almost immediately, since I wouldn't have gotten a house that required multiple people if it hadn't been for the lies that I've been told by people who pretended to be my sweetie, as well as my sweetie when she was told to lie to me while she was being coerced through various means. I don't know with what they used on her, but she just really wasn't the same after that business trip. And then before that, she really wasn't the same after she suddenly shows up with half her hair gone, wanted to have sex, and didn't want to answer my questions. I might have figured out what happened, right? But rather than try to figure out, I'm just going to patiently wait, and then hopefully this will calm down significantly once certain very excited court officials decide what they're going to do. Since I don't think releasing the lists of the people who went to that island is going to help. Also, since my name's been added to it by high-level hackers who think that's funny, basically the list's been compromised, and then it doesn't really matter anyway. What matters is what the fuck happened? Yeah, see, I don't know. I don't know at all. I'd be happy to help everybody find out and then keep my mouth shut later, but that might be asking a bit much of me, since I'd be happy to cuddle up with Chelsea Clinton and then watch the returns from the next election. I don't think that's going to happen either. But I do know I don't know what's going to happen. And it's some other court's responsibility. Now, as much as I'd like to be sleeping with somebody, because it gets cold, and as much as I like having sex, but by the way, have you had sex? Have you had sex on weed? Because it's fucking amazing. I'm prepared to just withhold the satisfaction of my own life a little bit longer, since even if I die right after, seeing that woman and that lovely old crone, she's not a whore. That's a joke. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know it's going to happen because of what I've done. And then they could kill them all and just give me Sweetie. Would she still be Queen of Hawaii then? And then my Sweetie doesn't have to be Queen of Hawaii. Can she abdicate? Can I be like Grace Kelly? I don't know. But these things need to be decided after eye contact's been made. And then that hasn't happened yet because reasons, right? It all seems so simple. Why would I want to make eye contact with the woman who was abducted? She was bamboozled into believing that I might be a cop, and then she ran off with a sex pred team, and then that was 3.5 years ago. And since then, whatever's happened apparently hasn't been very successful. Huh. Of course I'm not mad at her. And of course nobody's ever going to find out which one is which, since, well, I'm not sure how this is going to get handled, but here's a hint. I'm not going to be doing it solo or rogue, right? I mean, I'm just a needle junkie, right? And since I don't have a strong desire to have sex with that woman on drugs, now that I've had my questions answered as to why the fuck did you show up with drugs for yourself and then never again, and why was I a rapist, and why did you do that on the phone, and why did you keep calling? And I have answers to all those questions. I could discuss the ramifications thereof with a competent psychotherapist or with my Sweetie. That would be my preference. And if I do see a psychotherapist, my Sweetie will be number one on my mind. Hey, let me tell you what happened to Sweetie. Yeah. Since something obviously happened. I don't think that it's drug use that's the problem. The main problem was that I didn't really want to sell drugs illegally. And then for some reason people thought that I didn't want to pay tax. Might have been the inscription that I put on the bottom of the screen protector for the computer that I got her for Christmas and her birthday after she got back from her trip. It said, all taxation is theft. Right? It's not something I believe in. I just thought it was funny. What is the tax on methamphetamine production? Tax. Well, it used to be that it was handled through a series of organized crime gates, right? And then whatever system is going to be in the future, it's not going to be like that anymore. I don't know what they're going to do, but I don't really give a fuck what they do, since I knew all about that shit years ago. And it was assumed from my forum postings and my attitude and my behavior and the things I said, it was assumed that I was still obsessed with having this peak experience. Now, I wouldn't mind doing that, but I'm pretty damn sure I know who I'm going to do it with. And if I can't, then I just won't. And then there's this other experience that I'd like to have, which is it's just legal even. Right here in America. And then I haven't done that yet because, well, I'm prepared to hold out for somebody special. And that's not what drug and sex crazed obsessives fixate on. They want the experience. They don't really care who they have it with. In my case, I also don't really care who I have it with, because if it's not with Sweetie, well, then I have to find an entirely new arrangement of people. Probably not in this house either. So, it's all very exciting. It would probably be spoiling the game for everybody if I just walked over to her house and grabbed her, sprayed some Banach in her face, and just started pumping her there on the highway, and then imprinted her again. However, I guess that's what apparently people do in some parts of the world. And I knew that. Yeah. And while I'm not happy that that's what's happened to Sweetie, I will say that it's substantially better than life in prison or having to flee from the authorities for the rest of our natural lives, or from being constantly terrified of pan-galactic bounty hunters. There's not going to be any pan-galactic bounty hunters go after Sweetie. Everybody on that level of reality has heard about what's happened. They're all fairly taken aback, since I'm supposed to be, the Hungarian beast. I'm supposed to be overwhelmed with love and devotion. I'm supposed to be this. I'm supposed to be that. I'm not any of those things. I'm fucking pissed off. And they've taken my devices and left me with one, which enables some overworked dude the ability to push a button and delete all my work in progress information. Now, I'm guessing I know who, because it happened last, right when I was happily pronouncing that George Noory is a nigger. Not only that, but George Noory is my nigger. Now, I can assume that this must be a trigger phrase for him, since I don't really think that he is a nigger, nor do I think that niggerdom is something that should be bandied about, nor do I think that he's black or white or anything. I think instead it's more of a, well, I think on this, it's simple. Some people are either fucked off mind control, total dope slave, idiot, fucking Masonic catamite whores, and some people aren't. Now, I don't mind that the guy in charge of all this stuff for the military is a fucked off catamite Masonic whore. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, under other circumstances, I might well become a fucked off Masonic catamite whore or whatever. But since I haven't really made that decision yet, and in any case, I'd sure like to make eye contact with my Sweetie. It seems like since they can bring them back to life over and over and over and make them into whores, it seems like something like that could be done, except to assist me rather than to fuck me up. So that's what I'm waiting for the court for. I don't want to jump out ahead of things. Plus, I don't want there to be any lack of memories that I'm left with, since this time will never come again. I was told that she needed help with her children. I was told that she needed help losing weight. Okay. How'd that go? And what does everyone think? Since it apparently is still a tense situation. Oh, imagine that. How tense was it for the last 3 years? Was it more tense before then? What happened in... Well, never mind. Delicacy. Yeah, real delicate. Now, I'm probably going to publish this one as my last offering, was deleted by YouTube. YouTube said, oh, it didn't meet our community guidelines. Oh, it's rated 18 plus. Well, I did speak over top of Richard Groiper's content and call him a whole bunch of names for 3 hours. I guess that was a pretty easy one to get rid of. Since I'm not trying to use YouTube to become viral or do anything besides document my experiences, I don't really care that they take it down. I don't really care that people don't listen. I don't really care that I don't have a good reputation. I'm not trying to tell a story. I'm just trying to keep things documented, which is difficult when computers and cell phones and vehicles and water supplies keep getting messed with. Now, I don't know who's in charge of that kind of thing. I only know that that's not really supposed to happen, right? So I guess it's a real big, super important deal. Okay? So that's why I'm not in a real big hurry. And if I actually look like a drug user who's relapsing, so much the better. Since I don't really have to do anything other than follow the instructions that I was given, which, last I heard, included going on a 400-mile goose chase for something that I could have had any time before, but suddenly it was for me. And apparently it had something to do with, I don't know. I can't wait to find out. I may not ever get to find out. Hopefully I'll be informed by legitimate authorities, and I won't just have to piece it together in the back of my head. If I do, I probably won't write a expose book about it. Countless men and women died during 2 world wars that were fought essentially for control of the secrets to methamphetamine. There's quite a few secrets. I don't know many of them, but I know enough to know, oh yeah, that's worth fighting a world war for. Yeah. And now, whatever the new formula is, well, I don't know who's in charge of that, but they're not doing it right. And the people who were in charge of it before, they definitely weren't doing it right. And everyone who knew anything about me before now must have assumed that I was looking for the same things that a lot of people are looking for. Got to get the girl, got to get the right drug, got to get the right circumstances, and then at last I can have total ecstasy. That's not how it works for me, given that I've read a book by Robert Anton Wilson. It's called The Final Inquisition. It's a discussion of how the military and the scientific establishment, let's say, control society so that certain things don't get out there too much. Like the Hashishim would feed their initiates this concoction that would give them a drug trip where they would be. Basically, they'd pass out and they'd wake up high as balls in a room with a whole bunch of women who would fuck their brains out. And then when they were done, they'd fall asleep, and then they'd wake up and they'd be back in their monastery cell. And their trainer would say, okay, that was heaven. Follow the Hashishim and never betray us, and then you can have that when you die. Otherwise, you'll go to hell. These initiatory experiences have a really profound effect on the human consciousness. I'm not going to talk about my initiatory experiences, other than to say I first encountered crystal methamphetamine when I was 15, when there was a guy on the phone asking me questions about gossip in my high school for hours. I was sleeping, the phone rang, I answered it. Some guy, high as balls on meth, although I didn't know that at the time, asked me a whole bunch of questions. Sounded exactly like what's happened over and over in the last few years, in fact. Almost as though there's some sort of military discipline where they got to get information out of people. And the best way to do that is to, get high as fuck and then call up a teenage boy and ask him questions in 1989. Now, since then, I've since learned a whole bunch more. But the people who do this kind of shit, they haven't learned jack or shit. I don't need to reinvent the wheel. I don't need to reinvent anything. I definitely need to break up with that woman and then ask her out, or she needs to know that we're not married officially, or she needs to take me to her brother's house so we can have a talk, or a whole bunch of things. I don't know, since none of them can talk to me. And then I guess it's awkward when the Queen of Hawaii is being held for ransom or some shit. Queen of Hawaii. Certainly she's pretty enough. I don't care about any of that shit. I've been patient, mysteriously, and I've been kind, which isn't so mysterious. Everyone involved in the situation is a goddamn toddler. You're fucking children. You have no idea what the fuck you've done, what the fuck you've been doing, nor how to achieve your goals. Largely because I guess you're still following the satanic homosexual agenda, and you haven't heard that Satan's a robot now and there's no agenda, and then you have to go with Lucifer. You want to go that way? I can see why Satan is a preferable mob boss to Lucifer, but that's beside the point. I don't like homosexual agendas. Now, if I'm going to suck cock, okay, I need witnesses. I need a lot more than just, oh, then you can buy meth, since I don't want to buy meth. And my sweetie didn't want me to buy meth either. She wanted me to help her children and help her lose weight. Well, good news is I've certainly done that. The bad news is I don't know what's happened to her children. I don't know how much she weighs. And yeah, I'm pretty bored of crystal meth. I was bored of it before. It's pretty lame unless you have infrastructure, support, people to have sex with, a reason to risk your life and liberty and your reputation on playing with fire. I had no reason to do any of those things. That's why for 3 years, I didn't go get any crystal meth. Then all of a sudden, after 3 years, all of a sudden it was the biggest, most important thing in the world. Huh. Now, is anybody going to investigate that? Is anybody investigating that still? Do any of those people want to take my statement, or have they just been taking statements of people who have been pretending to be me? Since that's what it looks like to me. Now, I'm not too worried about it since I don't have skin in the methamphetamine game. However, I wouldn't mind taking control of the whole fucking thing, since obviously nobody in this part of the world knows what the fuck they're doing. Also, I'd be happy for it to go away, and then you all could just, why don't you go back to methcathinone? Isn't that a good one? Some of you won't get that joke. It's going to be real simple. I'll just do whatever proper authority says to do. And it'll be a cold day in motherfucking hell before I say goodbye to my sweetie and start having a relationship with somebody else and my dick, after being hauled away on Christmas Eve by a baker's dozen of dudes in ill-fitting county deputy uniforms who have yet to apologize, who just seemed kind of angry when they had to drop the case. I don't even know if it's prejudice or without. Yeah, I imagine they're angry, but I don't know why they would be angry with me, since I'm actually innocent. And then I could be a lot more cooperative of an innocent person if I hadn't been laughed at openly on the birthday of the Prince of Peace, for example. Also, if I hadn't been jacked around relentlessly ever since, plus before that. Additionally, some of the ways you guys do your things, well, that's really sleazy and tacky. Yeah, so not going to talk about that openly very much, since I don't want to have to die like Hunter S. Thompson did. But I'm not surprised people get hit in the face with fire extinguishers. I'm not surprised some people are terrified. And I'm really not surprised I'm not, welcome at any parties, since I guess not only are the dudes who are trying to get rid of me eager to hang on to that insurance money that they claimed for putting a life insurance policy on me, they're also apparently fighting with each other about who gets to be the top Michael Kuzi or the top Jack. I don't know. but it's turned into a fucking nightmare. And the people who are sex and drug obsessed, they have kind of like a narrowed vision, and they're not really aware that everything they do is tracked and indexed and watchable. Everything. I don't know if they got amnesia spells usually, or if they're planning on anything. They're probably just in a state of fucking blind panic, driven onward into the night because they can't get what they used to have. Not many people can. They're not going to be able to get what they thought they were going to be able to get out of me. They're not really thinking things through in the terms of that they're caught, because they're drug addicts in denial, and they're being compelled by control magic to behave in really terrible ways. That's cool. I hope that the people who are torturing them enjoy it, because I certainly do. And then I don't see myself as being tortured. It's a little inconvenient, certainly, but it's certainly nowhere near as bad as that winter we spent at Valley Forge. And the people who are my ostensible enemies, well, they're not really my enemies. They're forced to play that role because they decided to be my enemy, and they figured that I would be easy to bring under their wing or something. Yeah, I don't want somebody else's wife. I don't want limitless access to drugs. I don't want a pardon. I don't want to get out of jail free card. I don't want people to fear me. Well, what do I want? Well, I think I'd like parents to be less afraid of me, since unlike everybody else who bought and sold their children on a whim, I'm not going to buy and sell anybody. You're all Americans. If you're not, you are now. You're going to be conquered and subjugated. People who behave poorly are going to be re-educated gently. And people who are addicted to chemicals, well, I'm sure they're going to love having those chemicals without fentanyl. Fentanyl's a real bear, huh? You know, they invented that in the 50s, and then they put it aside, and then they didn't use it. It's not very effective, and it's also completely meaningless to somebody like me. And while it's very good at dominating the minds of junkie feds who have been living their lives in a system of graft and corruption, just trying to get by, it looks really stupid when it doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work anymore. You're caught. You're caught. Now, you don't have to thank me, but I would suggest that you get down on your knees and you pray to God and you say thank you to God. Since I don't know how many of you are out there. I don't know what's taking you so long. I don't know why you just haven't collectively just turned state's evidence and bent the knee and surrendered to God. I don't know why, but apparently you can't. Possibly because assholes from outside the country are blackmailing you and leveraging you and know your full docs and know where your kids go and have controls of the drugs that you're being pumped full of as experiment. Yeah, it must be fucking terrible. Yeah. Thoughts and prayers. I hope it doesn't go on much longer. I kind of thought court was going to be this week, but I guess it's going to be next week. And then I was kind of thinking I might go get a psych eval on Friday, but I didn't want to give my enemies the weekend to look at what the psych eval is going to say, since the only thing they know how to do is plot and plan and scheme based on the notion that I might kill myself, end up in jail, or accidentally incriminate myself, or say something about something that'll piss off the families or the organized crime syndicates or the military enough that they actually want to take me out. That's probably not too likely. For one thing, I'm not seeing anything new. And the military knows that, since they have very sophisticated computer algorithms that listen to all the babbling that I put out. And the computer knows. It takes some time, but the computer will find a heuristical pattern, and it'll alert people in command and say, hey, Cruzy just busted out something new. It doesn't happen all that often anymore, because it doesn't have to. Hallelujah. Yeah. Because rather than blackmail the world's intelligence agencies and black ops side warriors with some sort of threats that I'm going to release information. I want to get high. I want to get laid. And I want to sleep somewhere where there's water. I want to wake up where the fucking woman is the same woman that I met. Where the same woman stays there. She doesn't get replaced by a fucking whatever the fuck. Right? That's a relatively simple privilege that I think most people take for granted. I don't know. I'm not really sure how many people are still having relationships anymore. Not really sure which planar arm I'm fucking living on anymore, since I'm isolated off in this house where used to be a lot of times. A lot of good times used to happen here. In fact, when I first came to this part of the world, I was having local authority figures tell me that they understood why I was mad at my girlfriend, my ex-girlfriend. I could tell you're mad at your ex. Let's have a party. Let's get more girls. Let's do drugs. That was okay then, since they knew where she was. And their plan was to finish the job of making us forget about each other. Turns out, for one thing, I'm not into that kind of sex scene. I'm saving myself for something special. And for another, I don't like being breadcrumbed. And 400 miles to go on a wild goose chase for something that I could have had before. Why the sudden interest? And what the fuck was that all about? These are questions with known answers. And while I don't need to figure them all out, the fact that it's taken years, and nothing's happened yet, that's been able to inform some of my questions in my mind. Now, 7:16 a.m. Yeah, I'm just going to publish this one, and then I may or may not get back to recreating the document that was, well, the document, the masterpiece, the one where at the end of it I say George Noory is my nigger repeatedly. I may not add that part. I'm not really sure, and then I may not do it at all. I mean, I don't really need to rely on pre-recorded snips. I could just go live, and I could start spilling the beans. Except I don't want to spill the beans, nor do I want to have a channel or a career. I don't want to be known for being a person who may or may not say something cool, but everybody has to listen to anyway, just in case. Like, that's not who I want to be. Conversely, I also didn't want to be somebody who has sex tapes being sold on the dark web for tons of money that I'm not allowed to see. I don't know. Am I good at it? Are they cool? I don't know. But I can see that's being awkward for people who know me, who talk about me doing this all the time and then are forced to deal with the other people who pretend to be me. I can see how it gets awkward really quick, right? So awkward that somebody can just delete my shit and act like that's a cool thing to do. Since, technically, since it's a military thing, if the guy's in command and he thinks he has a reason to do it, okay, I guess. And probably if he's getting paid extra by somebody who doesn't want George Noory's a nigger to be repeated, it's possible that I'm manipulating some sort of archaic system of trigger word control. Maybe. Although if I am, I'm not doing it very well. And I'm really only doing it for one reason, and one reason only, to show off for Sweetie. Since I won't always be in this position, and neither will she. And it was somebody's plan for both of us to never, ever, 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 ever see each other again. Pretty sure we're going to see each other again. And whether that leads to a real relationship or she hands me off to her litter mates, I don't know. But it's pretty important to me that decision is left up to me, since she left the decision up to me by abdicating her responsibility by not telling me the truth about this and this and this, and then a sex pred team peeled her off and has been using her for her pleasure for years. They probably get to do that, and the truth of the matter is, I don't really care. It's just flesh. It's just meat. The spirit, well, she can sit in heaven and watch her body get misused, and then she can look down at me and realize that she can't come talk to me yet because somebody fucked up. Now, maybe she's never had to wait for anybody before, but I'm used to waiting without any expectation of anything cool coming. Now, no matter what happens, I get to teach her mother how to cook. I get to explain to the children that Hungary really is better than most places, not just Austria. I get to inspire the Austrians. There's a lot more to Austria than just hiding out behind the cave entrance and waiting for explorers to come out holding bags of gold and then bopping them on the head and then taking all their stuff. That's the pinnacle of Austrian sophistication when it comes to military. These are the people who thought the Blitzkrieg was a good idea. Hey, it's got a great idea. Let's put everybody in tanks and then drive west after taking over the radio broadcasting tower, and then we won't tell anybody that everybody's on meth, and then we'll just win. Like, that was their plan. Well, I guess it was more complicated than that, but these people are still running around. They still haven't learned the lessons. They're still trying to figure out the secrets. They're still trying to impose the old world order. I don't give a fuck about any of that. If if I feel like it, I guess I'll start working in the illicit drug production industry, since I certainly could be. I don't really want to. I could. Kind of depends on what Sweetie's up to and whether Sweetie's family is still alive or whether they're in prison. Kind of depends on what her girlfriend is doing. Is her girlfriend in jail? Is her girlfriend in jail for doing something she didn't do? I don't know. There's been all these machinations and movements. Nobody's told me since, well, they want me to find out, right? But I would have to look in order to find out. And I would also have to care to know what their fucking name was. Since I don't have relationships with those people, other people do. And they formed those relationships by lying to them about me, saying that I was some kind of a loser. Hey, come with me. Oh, by the way, here, smell this. Remember Spinal Tap's album, Smell the Glove? Smell the glove. Smell the glove. I'm cool with how this is all going. It's taking a little longer than I'd like, but I haven't betrayed my country. There are certain people who have learned lessons that could never be learned in any other way. And thankfully, I don't have to teach them openly or be known as the one who humbled them or be in a position where it's even my fault. They can just take their own sweet ass time, figure out what to do. And if they want to apologize, they can. They don't have to. Like, I understand. I did look pretty stupid, right? Yeah. That was the idea. Looking stupid. Because when your friend comes back from the future and she's a neurological sprite telling you that she just got murdered and she needs your help, I don't know what you're going to do, but I know what I did. Well, I brought her back to life and didn't give a shit. Since the thing about people who don't want to be with me but still want my money, that's a pretty easy thing to say goodbye to. And then people who live on another plane of reality where they're somehow harvesting my energy, whatever the fuck that means. I don't know, whatever kind of a fucking deal that they'd had since the late 80s. I'm not gonna call Miami Vice. I'm not gonna go to therapy. I'm not gonna go to AA and share. Okay, I'm gonna fix the goddamn problem. Most of you didn't really know there was a problem, but I certainly did. And that's basically all I need to say about that. Now, I'd be happy to answer anybody's questions if they had any. But since it's an ongoing case and it's a legal matter and there's a court looking at it, most of the people who are involved can't really call me on the phone without committing either tampering or obstruction or disobeying a direct order or feeling stupid or getting laughed at. And then the ones that can have been picked up by AI. Since it used to be every once in a while I would get a call through from somebody trying to talk to me. And invariably, whenever the mewling coterie of autonomous smart contracts on the Ethereum network that hover over my digital life, whenever they saw me having a connection with anybody who was cool, whisked away. I just saw a hottie the other day. She said she was 14. Or she said she was 15. I think 14, yeah. I said she was gorgeous. She said she was 14. I said, well, what did I say? I can't remember. Something innocuous. Something that didn't sound like I'm a pervert. And then something that didn't automatically make it obvious that you're not 14. Bullshit. Especially since there's one that's 14 and there's another. And then I'm really not in the market for looking for a new woman, because there's the possibility that 1 to 9 women are going to go blender as soon as I sink myself into another woman. And I'm going to sink myself into another woman. Oddly enough, it doesn't feel all that empowering to know this. It just makes me, well, more shy than I was in the first place. And it should explain to a number of people what they need to do differently next time, since there's a bunch of laws that were exploited in the creation of this situation. And rather than write letters to all the Congress people individually, I figured that they could just talk amongst themselves. Okay. There, I think that about covers it. George Noory, you are my nigger. I don't have any other niggers, but you are mine. I am Jesus Christ nigger. That makes you mine. Now, I don't want you to flip out too much, but I'm going to start explaining all kinds of stuff about the late night broadcasting system in many ways where you won't expect. And then I get to do that because I'm an American citizen. And then it's not really appropriate for you to threaten my life or to unlawfully surveil me for the rest of my life because you're terrified of people finding out what you've been doing. Shit, most of them know. They just don't know what to do about it. And then I don't want to be a radio personality. I don't want to get a job reading the news. I don't even want to remember who the fuck got rid of the Bell problem. I mean, I barely remember. At one point, I was kind of curious, and then I came up with a bunch of information, and then I spoke it aloud, and then, well, I'm sure somebody was listening, and then people took care of it. I don't really care to worry about it. And then what happened with the wills, who edited the wills, whether or not my name was in the wills or not, what happened to my friends. I don't really know what happened at all, nor do I really think that I need to know. And if I do, I can probably be told after the many court cases are being handled. Many court cases. Special consequences. I'm sure you have questions. Oh my God, 2 hours and 29 minutes with Jackstar. Well, I'm sorry it's not more cogent. I'm sorry I can't tell you anything useful. But that's largely because I don't want to go to prison. And it's also because if you're listening to me because you broke the law and you're trying to figure out how you're going to get away with it, you're not. So you might as well be entertained. Right? Here's an idea. If you have questions, write those down. And then fold them up so they're all sharp corners. And then find the guy who thought it'd be a good idea to leave me with one computer. And pound those fucking pieces of paper where the sun does not shine. Since I can see why a person would want me to be, messaged after the last time. But since they took my weed and they took my quarters and they took my computer and they figured that would be a good idea. Well, it wasn't. A better idea would have been to tell me what's going on, and then I could agree or consent. But instead, well, I don't know who fucking took him, but the police do. And then the police don't really mind if I have stuff stolen from me, since they think I'm just some moron drug user who's causing trouble for everybody. In a way, that's true, because I don't have to be standing here talking about things into the computer. I don't have to be faithful and loyal and honest. I just like to be. And I was already, so it's not like I'm getting extra points or anything. And I don't need to rape anybody. That part's particularly important since apparently rape is a big part of certain cultures. That's how you show dominance. That's how you take control. Well, that's one way, certainly. Another way well, I'm not going to say it involves masturbating and eating your own semen a lot because I don't, but that would have been a lot better for you to have done than what you did do. You loathsome, thieving, ungrateful retardo. Dude, do you even know who you are? Do you know? Okay, so that's who you are, and I'm not in trouble. Okay. Now, if I tried to do anything about it, I don't know what the fuck I would do, but I'm sure I would fuck it up. And then this way, people who are in charge can handle your special circumstances. And then instead of being refugees on the run, trying to escape, then my sweetie and I can like have a conversation. And if my sweetie has 3 or 4 girlfriends, if she has a whole gang of girlfriends, that's fine. I don't need to fuck them either. And if they want to thank me for getting rid of whomever, I'm sure we can work something out that doesn't involve breaking any federal laws or making people really embarrassed. Do you feel me, dude? Probably not. Probably not. You want to get some shawarma? I hear shawarma's good. Let's get some shawarma.
Fuck you, Michael Kuzi.
Click.
Would you know it?
click.